Hey y'all, this is Jasmine J with the Business Umbrella here with the Let's Talk Business podcast. This season is called All Things Real Estate, where we talk about how real estate is used as a tool to build generational wealth. So today is our season finale and we have a panelist here and I'm gonna allow them to introduce themselves one by one.
Hello, my name is Christopher Ford. I'm a developer.
Hello, my name is Demetrius Ballinger. Garland Harris Jr.
Hello, everyone. Andre Barad, yes to real estate.
Hi, my name is Brittany Hyman. I'm the director of the Third Ward Real Estate Council.
I am Jason Hyman, the owner of Real Link and VP of Business Development for the Third Ward Real Estate Council.
All righty, well, welcome to the season finale and thanks again for coming. So we're gonna jump right into it. And our first question is why real estate? So from your perspective and where you work in real estate, tell me, why did you choose real estate?
I actually chose real estate because I figured any way to build wealth, it has to be a good investment strategy, and just looking at the returns on your ROI, return on investment from real estate transactions, I just thought that was my best way from an investment perspective to grow my income. Okay, and you say your background is in? My background is in civil. And then also on the construction side of things from project management standpoint. Okay. Dimitri?
I actually chose real estate. So I grew up in a construction family back at home. And growing up around a lot of projects, it was something I kind of fell in love with at an early age. And then I went on to study construction science and civil. And so I got into the business when I got my real estate license, and it just flourished from there. I just kept at it and saw the amount of wealth that it can bring in and also create generational wealth.
Okay. Got it.
So for me, ever since from an early age, like Demetrius, I've been interested in like building. I used to draw all the time, build Legos, still build Legos. And so, hey man, Lego architecture is fun, man. So yeah, I met my first architect when I was like in the 7th grade. He was like, I get paid to draw for a living. I was like, yep, I'm gonna do that. Got interested in real estate development when I watched the community telfair being built out in Sugar Land. I thought it was a quick way for me to make money and meet a lot of good, beautiful women. That's what I thought. Okay. But as I got older, I realized that I could use this as a tool to really help rebuild communities. So real estate became, I guess, a passion, but really my passion is more of building and developing stuff and going from there.
All righty.
Awesome. So when a person asks me why real estate, I like to backtrack because unlike these gentlemen, I didn't see real estate at all in my family. I wasn't introduced to real estate until maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So when someone said why real estate, I can break it down for you real quick. I remember moving up the corporate ladder, being promoted, moving up, having opportunities, and I made one mistake. Anybody made mistakes up in here? Yes?
For sure.
I made one mistake, and I got fired, right? I got fired from my job. I lost everything. And I remember leaving that company, running and crying to the bus stop. I remember going down a medium, running, crying, stopping, crying, sweating, running, not in that order. And and so as I was running, I began to downplay myself. I began to say, Andre, you're so stupid for making that mistake. You are not the image of the family anymore. I lost everything. So when I finally made it home, I went inside the apartment. I haven't paid my rent. I heard this knock on the door. Anybody heard that knock before when you haven't paid your rent? Yeah, it was the maintenance man, right? So I heard it. I dashed towards the tub like a tornado was coming. I remember I went in the tub and I hid in the tub with the curtain closed behind. And I remember him opening up the curtains and telling me to get out. That was a pivotal change and transformation in my life. Not only did I lose my job, I lost my place. I had to go back and stay with my mom. So when you say why real estate, as I went back to school, I'm in oil and gas now. that situation never left me. My why was so strong that even though I'm making six figures in work right now, you would know if you look at me, I work and I grind so hard because of my why. So I lost everything, went back to work, moved up in the company. But the thing is now, it's all real estate. So as I moved to this job, I met this guy who had rental properties, building, and yet he was doing the same thing I was doing.
Yeah.
And I seen it, I said, you know what, I want that. So that was my reason why. So
Thank you for your
Yeah.
transparency.
yeah.
Dang.
Brittany, why did you pick real estate?
Well, all right, Andre.
It's hard to outdo that one.
We should have put him on the end.
So I'm an urban planner. And so, and so my focus was community development.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I thought I was going to be like Bob Lanier. I was like, okay, so I'm a planner, so I can prospect. I can see what's coming. I can get the real estate, and I can amass wealth that way, and also shape communities. But what happened was I was terrible at real estate. I got my license. I tried. I wasn't good at it. But I'm still in real estate because I'm still on that community development side. And so through urban planning is how I found it, and try and practice it now.
Okay. Mr. Jason?
So mine is twofold.
Okay.
Being a planner and then being a broker, I have to balance both. And so being a broker, real estate is essentially recession proof.
Mhm.
People always need a place to stay. And it's solid, it's replicable, right? You can do it here, anywhere, it's scalable, right? So like that makes it a good business move.
Yeah.
But from like a planning point of view, or community development, if we don't own where we live, it's kind of hard to dictate what's going on in your neighborhood and how it's built out and developed. So that's my why.
Wow. Y'all got some good stuff. So tell me, how do you find your clients? Like, how do you get your deals? How did you get your business off the ground?
When it comes to deals, me and Garland, we're partners.
Mhm.
So we kind of look in different areas. First, we try to see what the comps are in those areas, and we put together an analysis, and we come up with our numbers as far as what the construction cost is, how much we're purchasing the property for, if it's going to be a flip, and then what the ROI, the return on investment, is going to be.
Right.
And if the numbers make sense, then we proceed with the transaction. If they don't, then obviously we'll look in another direction. I mean, and the same thing goes for new construction. When you're acquiring land, from a land acquisition perspective, that's when we start running our analysis to see, hey, the land and the construction, what the ROI is going to be, the return on investment from a new build perspective. So, I mean, that's how we find our deals. Sometimes we find off the market deals. Like I purchased a property in Sunnyside, zip code 77033.
Whoop, whoop. Our family's from Sunnyside.
The person who owned that property, they actually sold me another property. So she had, multiple properties in her portfolio. Once we got to the end of Higgins Street, then I reached back out to her and asked her if she was interested in selling another property. So this was an off the market deal, and we actually got that property for far less than what it would appraise for.
Right. Wow. So the numbers must make sense.
Yeah, the numbers have.
Can everybody relate to that? Numbers must make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
How I started with it back in 2016. When did we meet? Was it 16 or 17? 17. So 16 when I started. The approach that I took, I'm a guy. I need to understand how everything works.
Right.
That's for some of us we're wild. So I kind of studied every little pocket community throughout the city of Houston. And I think 2016 is when the city of Houston changed the Chapter 42 development codes to where it expanded it out past 16 for your so-called townhome developments, to where you could replat the property to a minimum lot size of 1,600 to 14 square foot. So they extended it out to the building. So what I did was I would go in places like Shady Acres, the Heights, Sunnyside wasn't where Sunnyside is now. So it wasn't a lot of projects going on in Sunnyside. So I was studying areas of understanding the price point of land, understanding the price point of resales, understanding the price point of new construction, whether it was a 2-story, 3-story, 4-story with a rooftop terrace. And then once I understood every pocket and understood the buyers that was in every pocket, you know, the buyers in the 77008 zip code to a 7709 and 91. And at the time, I kind of started eyeing the area of Acres Homes, which now is you know, exploded.
Yeah.
We all, you know, are involved.
Yeah.
And so I represent a bulk of my businesses. I represent builders and developers. And what I do is I represent them in buying land. I consult with them on what type of floor plans to build. And then with me owning the brokerage, we represent the sales and marketing on the back end.
Wow.
And so I had to understand it from that perspective. So I had to understand it from, number one, what is the demographics from an economical standpoint? And then I had to understand it from an investor standpoint, then understand it from a banker standpoint. You know, if I'm an investor, will I invest in this area?
Yeah.
Do I see this area turn on? Okay, what does it, if I bring a bank over here and say, hey, we're looking to buy this land and put this many houses on it, will they feel comfortable investing in this area? And once I got that down pat, then I knew I could, you know, get anybody to buy with me and develop some of those areas. And right now we're in Acres Homes, and I think it's over close to 900 to 1,000 homes that are planned, that are coming. And Acres Homes, and the reason why I keep saying Acres Homes, at the time, Shady Acres, their price were $400,000. The heights were $400,000. Even Third Ward back then was, well, more so Midtown was $400,000. I was like, man, where can you go to where you can have an affordable price point to open the pool of buyers up? And instead of doing your 3 and 4 story town, you can do your 2 stories that, you know, for baby boomers that are moving back from the suburbs, want to come back into the city, where can we go to? And Acres Homes provided that, because then, and we all know, you could go, back then, you could go buy an acre for $100,000, $150,000. Now, you're going to pay $400,000 for it. It's just how skyrocketed it's been. But as far as the sales price, you're able to bring a product that's $280, $270, ranging all the way up to like $350. So it was an area that I kind of wanted to kind of shift to bring an affordable price.
Okay. Andre? Okay. How do you find your clients, or how do you find your deals?
Okay, so I guess it's twofold for me because I run a design firm and I also partner with Chris. So in my design firm, a lot of my clients are referrals from other clients because they're like, oh, Garland will answer the phone and he actually responds to emails. So I just spoke at an architectural jury at PV a couple weeks ago, and I told a bunch of the students there, I know a lot of y'all want to run your own business, but a lot of great designers are terrible business people. So if you want to run your own business, you need to take a business class. Otherwise, you're going to end up working for someone like me who understands how to run a business and needs to hire people because he got too much work. So when it comes in from that standpoint, I get a lot of people who are referred to me from Andre brings me people, other clients that I work with, they'll send me people. And then I also pick up a lot of business from Instagram, you know, just posting projects on there. And people are like, oh my God, I love this project. How much? And I'll be like, this the price. And they'll be like, oh, I'm like, all right, whatever, you ain't serious. Hey man, I don't play about my money, you know what I'm saying? They'd be like, can you do some work? I'll be like, yeah, can you pay this invoice first? Because I don't do no work without no money, okay? It just don't work like that.
Okay.
On the development side, I started when I got my first job working with an architecture firm, Preston Wood and Associates. I've known them since I was in like 8th grade. You know, I grew up, you know, they're the ones who encouraged me to go to PV. So I got a job with them, and I, you know, would see the projects that they're working on, and I'm asking a ton of questions. All right, so how much they get this land for? And they're like, oh, they bought it at this price. Okay. And then when they send the permit documents in, I can see how much the construction costs in. So I'm sitting up here figuring out the numbers. I'm like, okay, the sales price this, okay, this how much money. Like, I could do this in other neighborhoods. So I, like Demetrius, started studying neighborhoods, 5th Ward, 3rd Ward, Sunnyside, Acres Home, the near north side, all of these neighborhoods. I would drive them on the weekends. I'd look for properties. That's how I found a lot of properties, actually. That's how I found the area we're building in now, DeSoto and all that. I was just driving around because a lot of builders aren't putting stuff on the market because we don't want to, risk canceling contracts because of construction prices. So now you got to physically drive around to find, what's being built. So I've been doing that for, what year is it?
It's 2021.
21. So I've been doing that almost 10 years. Sorry. I've been doing that almost 10 years, just researching neighborhoods. I would get online, look up stuff. I would go and meet people in the neighborhoods. I could walk the streets, just meet people on the corner. Hey, man, what do you think about the neighborhood? Da, 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 da. And I would see where development was trending. I pay attention to capital improvement projects, so I look for...
Can you explain what that is?
I'm about to.
Okay. Thank you.
So capital improvement projects are... utility, like right now in South Park, CenterPoint is coming in and upgrading all of the power lines. Like you drive down Orm, they're putting in new power lines. You drive through Reed, they're putting in new power lines, upgrading utility commissions and things like that. So they're getting that area ready for even more development. The city's coming in, widening drainage ditches, they're putting in new streets, they're putting in speed bumps, maybe they're putting in sidewalks along schools. So that tells me, hey, they want this area to grow, so this is where I need to be. I need to be buying land here because the city is incentivizing it to grow. You can also look at things like if they're building parks or if they're building new schools and things like that. These are areas that you need to be in. And to know this stuff, you got to be on like email lists. You got to be paying attention. If you're on Instagram and social media and you looking at just pictures of butt naked women, all that stuff, you're doing it wrong, okay? Look for stuff that these cities are doing because you can find out where they want areas to grow. And that's just literally how I found out. I knew they wanted Fifth Ward to grow because they were doing things like creating a tiers, which is a tax incremental reinvestment zone. When the city wanted the Galleria to grow, like I know everybody sees what the Galleria is. I remember what the Galleria was 20 years ago. Vacant high rises. Okay, my daddy used to do cars in the parking lots of these vacant high rises. Then they created this tax incremental reinvestment zone. And they started going in and putting up all the little chrome street poles and everything. Next thing you know, now they building all kinds of crazy stuff around there. You got high rises popping up every moment. But all of that development started 20 years ago. And now if you're getting in, you ain't paying the 20-year ago price, you're paying today price.
Right. So
by being able to study an area and understand what's coming, you can get the jump before everyone else does.
Okay.
Great answer. For me, I'm big on how I find my deals is relationship, rapport, adding value. So when I work with a clientele, I first seek what do you need for me to do to take your business to the next level. So it's not about me, right? It's about what can I do to make sure you succeed. And once you have that mindset, the words get around to where people will say, hey, if you want to sell your product, go to Andre. If you want to sell your product or sell your home, go to Andre. I make it to where when they work with me, they're going to win.
Yeah.
More than anyone. My client is going to win more than me, more than anyone. They're going to win. And another thing is when I'm in a neighborhood, I add value to the neighborhood. I make financial donations to the area, right? I knock on doors, introduce myself to the neighbors and let them know, hey, I'm so-and-so. I own this lot right here. If you need anything, I'm here for you. If you guys, I send out postcards in the area. I'm going to tell you real quick how powerful that is, right? The thing when you add value or when you do something, it's not instant gratification. You don't get a reward right away most of the time. Most of the time, it might take a year or two.
Right.
But when it happens, you get a product that doesn't hit the market and you get it for a great price. So I bought land in Cashmere Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I bought the land because of a relationship for $25,000. The land is worth $75,000. Then I put my signs up in the yard and I made circles in the air introducing myself. Then several months later, the tenant called me and said, hey, my landlord is selling the house. I love your attitude, your mindset. And they also said they love my son, Chase, doing the commercials, right?
Mm-hmm.
She said, hey, I think you should buy it. So she gave me the person's number and I put it on offer first before anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I met up with the owner before even bringing up me purchasing the home. I said, what can I offer you? Tell me about yourself. And I found out she wanted to get into real estate. So I told her, I give you your price, but also I give you free mentorship and I share some game with you and help you with your first flip project. So you see how it goes beyond me purchasing something. You have to stand out, right? And that's how I get the business.
And just to chime in a little bit, when he says that he wants his prospective buyers or his clientele to win, I mean, I brought a property to him here recently off of Idaho Street. As I mentioned, I already knew the lady who sold me the property off Higgins Street. I went to Andre. I said, man, I want to put this property under contract. And then Andre said, hey, I'm not going to charge you anything. Yeah. I went back to Andre. I said, no, man, I want you to make money off this deal. So it was a back and forth between me and him. And at the end of the day, he still didn't charge me anything. He said, oh, I'll make it up on the next deal. But that's just the type of person he is. Yeah. And he builds that relationship with people. And, you know, he builds a good rapport with me. And on future deals, I'm going to keep coming back to him.
Absolutely.
So why not hit Chris inside the head for 3% on the lot, you know, that he found? No, if we in for long term, you have to think long term. I'm not trying to get everything that I can get from every deal. I want to make sure you eat, make sure you have the money that you need for your project, and then we'll talk about money on another deal. You know, so that's my perspective.
Wow. Okay.
I can't say a whole lot more than what's already been said. Just kind of, you know, building that social capital. And one thing that I can say, pulling from that urban planning perspective, is that community engagement and understanding how it matters from the top to the bottom and being invested in the communities that we do the work in. Right. So because we actually live there and we play there and we work there, we are committed on a different level to seeing it succeed and to being mindful of how we build and how we develop, so that way there's still meat on the bone for other people and everybody to eat off of. For also, to Garland's point of understanding the public part of things and seeing where the city investment is going, seeing those federal announcements and saying, okay, well, now, you know, the president is talking about this Build Better Act. And so, like, what does that mean for our communities? How is it going to be funneled down? Is it going to come through the state, the county, or the city? And then paying attention to those projects and where they are, and then building around those, so that way you have that added support.
Well,
maybe you should sit on that side next time.
No, I will definitely say, just to piggyback, the social capital. You know, everybody talked about relationships. I think that's the cornerstone of everything that we probably do. I'll say for me personally, like I serve, like, so I run for different things in my neighborhood to serve in order to bring resources to the neighborhood. So that's a way that I'm plugged into that area. And people call. And a lot of times they call and they ask for help. Yeah. You know, it's not always just a straight out, you know, a deal, so to speak. A lot of times they call and they ask for help, and I have to connect them to an Andre or a Garland, Demetrius, or whoever that is. But that trust that you build in doing that goes a long way. That investment goes a long way. And I think on the other side of things, we didn't stress enough. We talked about following the money. When we say follow the money, we talk about capital investment. But we talked about the money from being spent on the parks. But there's so much money, like, before it gets to the parks and the streets, you know, we try to be kind of like an anchor to draw that money to the neighborhood. So, like, all that kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, for sure.
And to piggyback what he's talking about is, so when I started looking at acres homes, that was the perspective I looked at it from a planning side. Man, what if we can bring communities at this price point? And, you know, let's just use whole numbers. If you know, property is $100,000, and the city tax rate is what, 2.56, 2.57. That's what, $2,500 in property taxes they're making. Well, if you're able to put 20 towns or 20 houses on that same property that's valued at $300,000, 300,000 times 20 houses is $6 million in value. Now take that $6 million times about the same 2.5. Now you can start getting your public infrastructure increased. You can start getting money pumped into the school system. You can start. So what he was speaking about earlier was the way that you find out when a city is investing money into neighborhoods. If you don't know how to find it on the website or there's going to be a billboard. When you ride, it's going to show you what county it is, what district it is, what's the dollar amount that the city is investing into this area, and where that money is going to. Most of the time, that money is going to the streets, the infrastructure, putting sidewalks in. And so that was the perspective I looked at it, because as important as we are, he's just as important as we are. So it all works together in a circle from a planning perspective, because it's hard to do stuff in the community when there's no support from the government financially, because the tax dollars are there. So that was kind of the perspective I looked at.
And just to piggyback on that, from a civil perspective, I have like an inside track on that information because I do a lot of civil utility projects with the city of Houston. From a drainage, paving, we have multiple projects with the city of Houston, water line projects. So I know when infrastructure is coming because I estimate those jobs.
And I'll say right now, the city of Houston almost has made it easy for a lot of people, because typically you do have to go into these CIP meetings and projects, and it can be cumbersome, a little overwhelming to read and follow up with.
Mm-hmm.
But since Sylvester Turner became mayor, they launched the Complete Communities Initiative. And so there's 10 communities right here in Houston that they're kind of targeting and identifying as areas where that investment is going. And so you can go dig into that and look and see and do your homework around those types of things.
Oh, wow.
So pay attention to the news.
Okay. Anybody else have any feedback to that point? I think y'all covered it all too. So I want to talk about mindset, because I think that's very important in anything you do, especially in real estate. So when you got started initially, what was your mindset?
When I got started initially, my mindset was just trying to, promote entrepreneurship. I wanted to create something of my own.
Mm-hmm.
We, like Andre said, we've all worked in corporate America, and you wanna push yourself to be an entrepreneur. So that was my mindset. What can I do in real estate from a owner's perspective that could increase my footprint in certain markets and also make me money. Okay. So that was my mindset going into real estate.
Anybody else?
Oh man, I would say ownership more than anything. To own something, tangible, something that you can touch, feel, and see. In corporate, we all invest in the stock market, but at the end of the day, it's nothing that we can control. But real estate is something that you can own, that's very tangible, that you can touch.
Mindset for me, the mindset came from I want to be like a leader in my community. So like, I know that, Hollywood promotes, they make it seem like black folk can only be successful after we done a bid or something like that, or after we done sold drugs or something. But I'm like, no, I know tons of black people who've never been to jail and they're very successful. So for me, it's like, okay, real estate affords me an opportunity to be visible. Like kid can walk down the street and he see one of my signs in front of a project. He can see the company name. He can know, oh, this is a black-owned development. And if we can, like I was telling Chris the other day, I need $1 million liquidity. I was like, if we get $1 million in liquidity, I can do bigger projects. I'm like, I'm not going to wait around for HEB or Walmart or Kroger or Aldi's or somebody to come build a grocery store in my hood. If my hood is missing a grocery store, I'm going to come build one in there. If we don't have healthy food options, I'm going to make it my mission to bring that stuff to my community. I'm not just going to wait for these people, because I tried to get them to come, I'll bring them out, they'll be like, oh, girl, yeah, we see this and that, but we don't really feel it fits our investment track. So my mindset became, whatever my hood is missing, I need to build it.
Yeah.
I need to figure out what I need to do to get there and whoever I need to partner with. And I'm like, look, let's not wait around on people. Let's go out here and figure it out. I don't like getting caught in analysis paralysis. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, listen, the best way for you to learn something is to get out there and figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to make mistakes. We done made a ton of mistakes. Everybody up here done made mistakes. But at the end of the day, you can't learn unless you go out there and figure it out. So my mindset is simple. Whatever we need to do to get it done, we're going to get out here and get it done.
Tell them what our coach's model.
Oh, yeah. Our coach, our defensive coordinator in college, anytime we was doing play installs and we would start asking too many questions, like we'd be like, okay, coach, what if number 1 run a go and number 3 run up the seam and he run out? He'd just be like, hey, figure that out. So literally me and Chris will say this to each other all the time. We'd be like, yeah, man, you know, how we gonna build this PAE, man? We ain't never done one of those. I don't know, man, but you know what Coach Norton said, we're gonna figure this shit out, you know what I'm saying? If we figure it out, we good. I told Jason, I said, hey, whatever people are not doing, if I can figure it out, then I'm gonna make all the money. Cause then they're gonna come to me and they're gonna be like, hey, how did you figure this out? Well, I took the challenge to figure it out.
And figured it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a model for y'all to live by. Just remember, Coach Norton in your head. Figure that out.
Figure it out.
I think for me, there's a sense of urgency, right? Because from a planning perspective, you can see that communities of color across the country are vulnerable right now to gentrification and to things like that. And so the need to get in and say, okay, well, we want to stake a claim in our communities before they're gone, before they don't look like us, and we don't have a place that affirms our existence in a positive way that creates economic development. There is a sense of urgency to that. And so real estate feels that need and feels that gap between all of the things that are supposed to happen on the public level and what's happening on the street.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, she hit that one, man. Black owned, baby. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of history in our neighborhoods, and we sitting around waiting for people to come in. And I'm like, man, stop waiting on them people. You can develop your own hood. I can show you how to do it.
Yeah.
Let's go and do it.
Sure.
What was the second part?
It was just your mindset. What was your mindset when you initially got started?
Okay. Yeah, my mindset was when growing up, having a company or someone have 100% control over my finances, right? Like I said, when I got fired, I lost everything. And so my mindset was to never allow someone to have that much power over me, right? And then I wanted to leave a legacy. And everything that I do now is for my last name, right? So I bring my son Chase right there. He's 4. And he might, the great thing about being that young is that it's getting his spirit, right? He might not understand fully what's going on, but it's getting his spirit to where, one quick story, my wife and I was going out and I happened to wear a different shirt and my son looked right at me in my eyes. He said, Dad, that's not your Yes to Real Estate shirt. Right? Now, I never told him about why I wear the shirt or the whole marketing thing. He just know Daddy put on that shirt everywhere he goes. And this time, Daddy didn't do it. Why not? Legacy. So everything that I do for my last name and to make sure that I control and dictate the amount of money that comes in. If we don't have money coming in, it's my fault. And no one else will have that control over me.
Wow.
I'm telling you.
So, I think so. My mindset has probably evolved a lot from beginning to now. I feel like it's been like a rebirth of my mindset as of late. But I think starting out, my mindset is I wanted to own a city. I wanted to start a city. That was really why I got into real estate planning, because I wanted to start this. I wanted to found a city. I think since then, there's been things that's happened, kind of like Andre saying with my daughter, trying to walk her down the street and couldn't because the sidewalks was kind of jacked up, right? Mm-hmm. And then people flying, there was no speed bumps. And I think I went to like a public meeting somewhere, but at the time, I didn't own any commercial property. So what I had to say was almost irrelevant to them. Right? Because they assess fees to commercial property owners, just in that particular instance. So I kind of felt, well, I live here, you mean to tell me I can't say anything? And so I think that my mindset changed at that moment to say, if I own, now I really truly can control and influence my neighborhood, not just from the physical, as we all do, but also politically, socially. You know, you can really transform where you are.
Okay. So let's talk about challenges. I know everyone has had challenges on the stage. So just talk to me briefly about like what was your mindset when you were faced with a challenge and how did you overcome it to be able to continue to do what you're doing today?
I mean, we had challenges in the beginning. We would try to, figure out how to acquire funds, and nobody would want to help us out because they said, "Hey, you guys need to have skin in the game."
Yeah.
Other people who were developers, other people who were already in this industry, they wouldn't help us out. So, I had to figure out how to come up with
You have to
capital.
figure that ish out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how you overcame the challenge.
That's how I overcame the challenges. We made things happen,
Yeah.
and we're where we are today because of that.
Okay.
I think with me, all of us are all strategic and methodical planners and things. You guys are planners, so they're very strategic.
Yeah.
And we all are to a certain degree. So with me, when I wanted to get in real estate, my bank account didn't match what I was looking
Exactly.
Big dreams,
So, and that's just reality.
Yeah.
So what I did was I took an approach of saying, hey, I want to join a company that's doing kind of similar, that's kind of close to what I'm doing. So I joined a company called City Quest Properties. And when I 3 or 4 months after I got there, I noticed there was an opportunity. I always try to look for a lane to where nobody is. And I saw that there was an opportunity for the land acquisition. Nobody was focusing on that. Everybody wanted to represent the community and sell the housing because that's the prettiest thing. Well, to me, land is the most important. Someone told me one time that he who controls the land controls everything. So land was the most important because if you understand the land from the development side of what type of piping system it is, how many houses you can put on, is there water to this property? If not, what's the closest streets that have to come from? If you can understand that, the vertical part is simple. That's a fixed cost. It's the horizontal. With Chris having a civil background, he understands that the horizontal development piece, that's a figure that you cannot put an exact number to because every project is different.
Mm-hmm.
So those were the challenges so I took that approach to help overcome that challenge.
Yeah.
And during that tenure is when I met Andre. And man, let me tell you, first off, Andre, man, he was so hungry for knowledge.
Yeah.
And I, at the time, and he still is, at the time, every question he would ask, I had to answer the field. And he would ask a question today, and I would give him the answer, and I would watch him acting upon it the next day immediately. So that's
right away.
If you give him something today, he put it to work tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure.
So he's a true example of taking information and automatically replicating it. So that was my approach to the challenge that I overcame. And so once I made a name for myself, and relationships are everything.
Right.
Above money, above anything. You show me who your relationships are, I can tell you how much money you got in your bank account. Our relationships are everything. And don't automatically assume that you need to, partner up with a relationship to the person that looks sophisticated. In a city like Houston, you never know who you're sitting beside.
Right, for sure.
So that's a word of advice that I would give you. Treat every person equally because you never know who you're sitting beside, not just from a money perspective, what position they're in. Are they decision makers in the city of Houston? Are they decision makers at a bank? Take all of your relationships serious because at one point, me and Andre joke about this, but we're serious when we say this. Houston is a big real estate market, but it is a small real estate market to your major players. And all of your major players, including all of us that are sitting on the stage, we either work with the same architect. My architect that I hired for all the projects, he used to work there. So I'm cool with the owner. Me and Andre use the same engineering company. I'm cool with the owner of that company. We always, when we first got here, we were talking about what banks are we using. So it's a
y'all left me out of that conversation.
So that was the approach I took to overcoming the hurdle. And once I made a name for myself, then I branched out and started my own company.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, when he is your engineer in the field? Yeah. Oh, he's in the field too.
Yeah, we all use
See, same engineer.
In the field and finance.
So you use both. Okay.
Okay, we use in the field. I use in the field and the mill. Okay.
Two.
So
Okay.
challenges.
Challenges. So for me, it was coming up in the design world. Like Andre, I was extremely thirsty for knowledge. I'm in there. I mean, like starting out at PWA was probably the best thing for me because they recognized that hunger and they fed it. You know, even from a young age, my parents fed that. You know, when I told them I wanted to be an architect, they went out to Circuit City. I'm telling my age. They went out to Circuit City, brought me a little home design program and let me just design whatever I wanted, you know? And so, you know, going out and learning construction was the big thing for me because where I saw I could set myself apart from other architects and designers was by understanding how we build this stuff. Because a lot of stuff, you'll get a lot of architects, they'll design something and then they get out there in the field and they're like, yo, this stuff don't work. And then the architect is telling them exactly what our coach told us, figure that shit out, you know? But sometimes it don't work like that. So for me, it was, all right, I need to understand how we actually build townhouses. How do we build actual neighborhoods? Like, what's the point of this shared drive and why do we need it? You know, what are the city rules regarding these things? You know, like, okay, 100 foot, then it's 16 feet wide. If it's over 100 and it's under 200, it's 18 feet wide. If you go over 200, now you're at a 28-foot PAE. What do all these words mean? You know, why are we doing this? And so the challenge for me was getting that information out of people. So when I worked at these companies, I just played dumb, you know, until they act a little stupid. And then I had to check them and be like, hey, man, I got a master's degree. Y'all not going to be playing with me like this. But I would, you know, like my coworkers, oh, you know, they lunch breaks, they going out to lunch. I'm going out to job sites. I'm meeting the builders and stuff. I'm like, yo, you know what I'm saying? I'm pulling up. So tell me, man, you know, why is this sprinkler now? Oh, because it's 4 stories. Well, these are 4 stories. He's like, no, these are 3.5 stories because it's just a roof deck. Okay, so if it's an actual floor, we got to put sprinklers in it. Like, yeah, it jumps from this code to another code. Okay, so by learning that stuff, you know, it put me in a position to really understand how this whole process works. Because now when someone comes to me, I'm not just laying out something that I think will work. I'm laying out something that I know will work.
Right. And
by learning that stuff, I could learn the cost. And so I could help my clients design affordable projects because I know what's affordable, you know, whereas somebody else comes in and they just design this super modern project. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to be expensive to build because you got to do this, you got to do that, da. So by getting the information out of these companies by playing dumb was the challenge for me because I had to get out here and figure all this out.
Yeah. Okay.
The most challenging part for me was when you are new and no one wants to help. When you are new and no one wants to help. So I'm still fresh in this game. I'm going about on 5 years.
You're still fresh.
Yeah.
Everybody's called your name like 6 or 7 times. And
Andre the man, he the superstar.
Like he's still fresh.
He's humble.
Yeah.
Very humble.
I remember I just started doing new construction this year. This year. And we building 12 new townhomes in Fifth Ward. And I remember going around to different sites to people who look like me and say, hey, I'm getting ready to build over here. I don't know what I'm doing. I have absolutely no clue of what to do. Can you help? And people looking at me like, keep up the good work. And not helping. Right? It took me a whole year to get with the right people to help with the vision. And I remember I ran into Demetrius. I happened to call him up. I said, hey, man, I'm looking to do this and that. And he didn't hang up in my face. And I just kept talking, right? So we began to build a rapport and relationship. And Demetrius was someone that I leaned on to edify and to educate me on what to look for. And these guys said a very important message. When you are new and you have someone who's newer than you and who's looking for information, do not look down on them. You want to pour into that person because you never know what that person might come out to be. If that person who turned me down would have knew what Andre would become right now, I guarantee he would or she wouldn't have turned me down. Right? So the hardest thing is when you're new, getting the proper information which in return, all the guys here, a reason why we started Yes a Real Estate Field Trip, because I realized no one wanted to help me. And I told myself, I never want another new person to feel the way I felt.
Right.
So we started the field trip, and all these guys have spoken and poured into the audience. So I would say that was the most challenging part.
Okay.
I think a challenge for me, an awareness that I have to have when I go into any space, is that I am a woman, and I am a woman with a soft voice. And so a lot of times that comes with this preconceived notion that I'm not someone who can be impactful. And so in order to overcome that challenge, and it started very early in my career, is I'm going to show up and I'm going to be prepared. I will have read everything, studied everything, made connections, and I have found ways to be useful and to be, impactful and to pay it forward.
Yeah.
And so anytime I enter into a room, I'm free with my knowledge, with my connections, and I don't have to have you go by and say, oh, I'm perfectly happy to sit in the back of the room so I can watch, and so I can listen, and so I can learn more and study more. And so when I show up, I'm there for a reason. And when I leave, it's going to leave an impact.
Shout out to the women.
Right. No, absolutely. So I think this might be a bit of a curveball, and I'm gonna say, I think the biggest challenge starting out or at any point is actually being like vulnerable and transparent. And I think that's something that you heard, I think Andre speaking, like it takes a lot of courage to even go and ask somebody at their job site for help, because you have to be vulnerable. You have to kind of trust that they're going to tell you the right thing, or whatever the case is. I think that's the hardest part is, finding the folks to trust and then being open and transparent with them. I don't know the best way to overcome it other than to do it, right? Find those people that you feel like you can trust, whether they online, offline.
Mhm.
And if they pouring into you, be a sponge.
All righty. So what I would like to do before we open up questions to the audience is I want to talk about how you used real estate as a tool to build generational wealth. So if you could just explain to us from your perspective, how are you using real estate to build generational wealth?
From my perspective, the way I use real estate to build generational wealth is I reinvest my income in the real estate, which ultimately grows my network. So that builds generational wealth right there. I mean, I'm not letting a lot of people, you have money in the bank and you just let it sit there. The bank's not paying you anything. What are they paying for a savings account? Like 0.00000013%.
Right.
So you have to look at it from that perspective. How can I grow my nest egg? What can I do that'll put my family in a position 10, 20 years down the line that my kids have something to look forward to? How can I put myself in a position where, I'm paying for college? I'm taking care of my kids. I'm taking care of my family. So that's how I look at it. That's my perspective on building generational wealth.
Thank you.
I would say, and this goes out to the future entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs that are listening. I would say figure out a way to, for me, this is something I learned in the beginning. Before walking away from that job, figure out a way to create your own investment company to be able to live off one income to where you never have to touch your investment. So for me, with me owning the brokerage piece, that's kind of like, that's my day job. I treat it as a day job. But from the investment standpoint, those proceeds, money that I make for projects, from different investment opportunities, that money is never touched. So you're able to grow that rapidly by never having to live off of that. And so as you, like Chris said, once you make money from a project, you're able to take all of that money and double back down again and do it all over again. So I would say figure out a way to kind of create your own income first, and then set up another investment company or whatever to be able to have it like a savings account that As I make money with this, I'm going to keep investing, keep reinvesting, keep reinvesting. And that way, over the course of years, you can look back and say, you know, when it comes time to doing bigger things or scaling up to bigger projects or being able to pay for your kids to go to college or whatever the case may be, you're in that position to do that.
And one thing I would like to mention is understanding it from a financial perspective, because I was just talking to Garland about this the other day, about the capital gains taxes that we pay on these real estate transactions. So sometimes you're allowed to put your money with a qualified intermediary, which, say I sold 16 townhomes and I netted 1.2 off that. I could put that money with a qualified intermediary. They hold that money until I do another real estate transaction, and I don't have to pay the capital gains taxes. I can defer that. So it's understanding that, and that grows generational wealth because you're saving, 30%, in capital gains taxes.
Wow.
Yeah, like me and Chris always talk about playing the game. I equate life to a football season or a basketball season. It's a game, okay? If you can understand the rules, then you can understand how to win the game. But not only just understand the rules, if you can also understand how to slightly bend the rules but not get a penalty, you win now. See, that's my DB. That's my inner DB talking, all right? Every DB coach in America will always teach you how to bend the rules. If you're running down the sideline with a receiver, just put your arm right here. They'll never call it, but you can slow them down and disrupt the route, and you can prevent them from catching the touchdown. Or if you're in college, if the guy has already beat you, just grab him and pull him down because it's just 15 yards from the old line of scrimmage, not from the spot of the foul like in the NFL. So by learning these little tricks where we end up playing the game within the game, we understand how we can bend the rules and we can win. So when it comes to understanding the things like the capital gains tax, I'm always telling people, listen, you got a business, you need to go on and file something. I don't care if you do an LLC, S Corp or something. File something, pay taxes. Black people, we don't like to pay taxes. But if you pay taxes, you can show that you got income. If you can show that you got income, you can get access to more capital and you can grow from there. If taxes were really a bad thing, then these other companies, they wouldn't file, like Amazon, they wouldn't be an actual company. You know what I'm saying? Because they know that by showing I can report income, I can build more wealth through that. But for me, using real estate to build wealth is, for me, I want mailbox money. I want stuff that my daughter will own in her own name. I want stuff that I'll own. I want stuff that I told Chris, I was like, look, our company, I want us to be able to have enough rental properties that the company owns, that is actually what take care of the operations for the company. And all of the stuff that we sell is actually the profit that is used to either grow the company or, get me a Tesla or something like that. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But like for me, I want to own houses, but hell, I also want to own a high rise in downtown. I walked in, what's that one? Market Square Park. One of my clients lives there. He had me meet him there, and then he gave me a tour. As we're coming down the elevator, his girlfriend is like, yeah, I bet you want to own a unit in this building. I looked at her like, own a unit? I want to own the whole building. What you talking about? I want everybody here paying me. All these people in here letting their dogs pee in the hallway, they going to be paying me. Okay? So when it comes to building wealth, I want to own stuff like that. I want to own a shopping mall. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that the people who make real money and have real wealth in this country, they own that stuff. Simon Malls. I don't know if y'all know who Simon Malls is. They own the Galleria. They own Katie Mills. They own Boca Raton in Fort Lauderdale. They own, what's that big one up in New York? They own several different luxury malls, all right? So, that's a family owns that. You know what I'm saying? That's somebody's family who owns that. So I want to be those people. I want to build in downtown.
Okay.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, for me, generational wealth is when I think about generational wealth, I think about the Rockefellers. I think about the Vanderbilts, right? I think about Chase, my son Chase, but also Chase Bank. You
got high expectations for Chase, man.
I think about those people, and when you think about it, they've been having the wealth since the early 1900s, right? Working on putting Chase and his my daughter Skylar have a rental property that they own already. Shout out to my lovely wife for allowing me to do me and believing in the vision when no one else seen it, right? Yeah. I'll be good when I get home. And, having a trust and have a livable trust, right? The trust dictating after you long and you pass away on who gets what to make sure that the money transfers to the next generation. I'm talking about chase kids, grandkids, kids, I want to last 100, 200 years. So every move that I make now, I'm thinking 200 years down the line. That's why our relationship is so important. That's why I'm making sure that the people I work with are winning, because I'm thinking big picture. I'm thinking 200 years down the line.
Methodical. That's what I said earlier.
Yeah, for
Strategic.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, generational wealth, it's not just the investment, but everything that supports it, right? So I want to make sure that where we're investing, the community is economically sound.
Mhm.
So that way, when you do get to the next generation, it's something that continues to build value for them. It's not something that was just like, oh, we have a house. But if you have a house and it's in a place that's not going to appreciate, it then becomes a hassle for them later on. So making sure that we're making sound investments and that like Andre said, that the paperwork is right. Because so many times airship comes up in a lot of vulnerable communities, and you look up and you feel like, oh, I have this, so-and-so gave me this. But if that paperwork isn't right, then, it was all for nothing. So just making sure that you're supporting those investments with the right structures, legally, financially, and also making sure that the next generation that is for understands what it is and how to use it.
Okay.
He's like, okay.
Right. I've been on the end, right? Everybody's so not to, I think we talked about, taxes and accounting tools. We talked about long-term planning and things of that nature. We talked about wills and succession planning. And so all those are important. But I want to call out three things using real estate to build generational wealth. So one is we got some we dream big, but everybody dream doesn't have to be that, right? I think my dad started out, he was like, buy one property every year for the next 10 years, right? That's simple. That's something anybody really can do. It's obtainable, right? It doesn't have to be this 200,000, property portfolio or whatever the case is. Just start where you are and build it. That's one. Number two, focus on more than the cash flow. I think a lot of times nowadays we see Instagram, social media, everybody's telling you focus on the cash flow. But the equity, the appreciation, and the control of the property, cash is king, but if I control it, I'll put you out. If you Airbnb in my property and I don't like what's going on, I'm just put you out. Now what cash flow do you have? Right? So don't focus just on cash flow, equity. And then last but not least, leverage your portfolio that you've built. We talked about moving, deferring taxes, but also if I have $1 million portfolio, I can go to the bank and leverage that portfolio for more property. So that's my take.
What I say earlier, $1 million liquidity? $1 million liquidity, baby. That gets you some special loan products. You in there.
Okay, so do we have any questions from the audience for any of the panelists as far as real estate? Go ahead.
Somebody get that man a mic.
Yeah, there's a microphone right over here.
You weren't using it.
Hey, how y'all doing?
How are you?
Good. I'm Justin, the Houston home inspector. So if you all need a home inspector, we can talk.
Oh, look at that.
But my question in regard to like your transition into real estate full time, I want to know the career paths you all took before real estate was full time.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Like I said, I'm a partner with a civil utility company. Actually, I started working for a civil utility company out at NASA. That was my first project coming out of school. We did 100,000 linear feet of water line on that project. and I gained a lot of experience. I was an assistant PM, a project engineer, and basically my project manager on that project, he made me do all his work. RFIs, change orders, track quantities. So, and then keeping work of the paperwork on that project, it was a cumbersome process. I mean, there was a lot of paperwork. So I left that company and I moved on to another civil utility company that was doing a lot of work with the city of Houston. And then when I was leaving that company, one of the guys that was a subcontractor for us, he approached me and he said, "Hey, what do you think about coming, since you have relationships with the city of Houston, what do you think about creating a civil utility company with me and partnering with me?" I said, "Hey, I think that's something I can do." So I started that company 2.5 years ago. And, you know, to this point, we've been really successful, and we've done capital improvement projects with the city of Houston, maintenance repair projects with other municipalities. And I kind of use that income to catapult me into the real estate game.
Anybody else?
I think for me, man, I literally jumped into real estate full time. When I got my license, I stepped away from a engineering consulting firm, and man, I jumped in it full time. And goes back to what I was telling you earlier about kind of separating the incomes, because you're going to need one to live off of, and then you're going to need one to invest in. Because if you can't invest if you're living off of all the money that you make. So the only way you're going to be able to invest is once you start making that money and you start investing, create it separately to where it goes in a different entity, to where you can take those funds and just keep rolling, because that's the only way you're going to grow your net worth and grow your liquidity. But then it also goes to what he was saying: when you control the asset, sometimes it's not about the cash flow. Let's use this model of saying you buy a property every year for the next 10 years. That's 10 properties you got. Well, what if, 10 properties, you have $50,000 of equity sitting in all 10 properties? You don't necessarily have $500,000 liquidity in your bank, but you got $500,000 liquidity in your assets. It's just about refinancing your portfolio to pull the equity out to be able to go make a purchase. So you got to with real estate, it's so creative that you can think outside the box at any given time. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, like how he's talking about with the different buckets for money. I think a lot of people, I know when I first tried to jump full time back in like 2015, I didn't have different buckets of money. I failed because I didn't plan and I wasn't very strategic. So the Bible says plans fail for lack of counsel. So for one thing, I surrounded myself with people who could help me. And then I learned, like, okay, how is a business structured and run? And we built systems. So even in my design business, I'm setting up systems as if I have, 20, 30 employees, and it's just me and one other guy right now. But even then, that money is separate from the money that I get from the day job that I'm trying to retire from. And the money that we make off of development projects, that goes into another bucket. So everything is separate, because I'm like, okay, if I build, like now I'm building a coaching program, so that money's going to be into another bucket. And then all I have to do is decide which one of these buckets do I want to live off of, and which one of these buckets are going to be used for investing and whatever else. So once you find those buckets, then you just need to have a plan, and involved in that plan. Don't just think about money. A lot of people forget about the fact that you still got to have like health benefits and stuff like that. So I have companies that I'm already planning on making my daughter an employee of, so we can both have health benefits on. So when you're trying to transition, you got to be strategic. You got to be methodical. You got to think like a supervillain in a comic book movie or something like that. You got to understand.
I got
Need
you.
a plan.
So just to make sure I'm keeping up, 2 engineers, architect. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was following.
For me, I still work full time.
So do I.
So do I.
Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah. So we all still work.
Okay,
Yeah.
So until June 2022, then I'm out of there.
So that's my. But for me is creating a team and delegate. I delegate everything. I focus on building rapport, relationship, and everything else I let other people make money on. Yeah.
Yeah. Do what you do best and delegate the rest. That's a good motto to live by.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I actually did not intend to do real estate full time. I pretty much was I worked for the city for 13 years. I had gotten an executive position. Everything was going great. I had my second daughter. And then because of the position that I was in, I ultimately had to choose between if I was going to be present for my family or if I was going to be present for this job. And what I understood was that they only get one childhood, right? They can't get a new mom. He can't get a new wife, but they haven't found anyone yet to fill my spot. But
They can't get a new you either.
No, we can't replace you. We can't.
but the idea is like you have to think of where your value is. But I was able to make that move because I never exhausted my complete income while I was working my way up.
So I lived way below my means. Way below. Like I stayed with my grandmama below my means. Okay? I worked. I'm just saying, I worked. I saved my money. I had my real estate license, so every check I would get, I would put to the side, right? And I was strategic about it, like they're saying. And I think once I hit about like 20, 25 grand or so I had put to the side, I started looking for property. Now, you take that way forward years, because it was probably just maybe 4 years ago that I left the workforce and was full time. But by then, I was married, so it was a second income. We had money set to the side, and I wasn't civil engineering making big bucks or nothing like. I'm just a whole nother conversation. But no, I was working for the city. I was probably making like 30 or 40 grand a year. I wasn't doing big things. So I was just smart with my money and work my way up. So.
I think one bucket we forgot to give is don't think of approaching it on your own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Partnership.
Yeah, absolutely.
Think partnership, and you don't always have to partner with someone that's an expert in the same areas. Partner with someone that brings something totally different to the table. Just to use simplicity, you may can partner up with a guy that's very hands-on, very active. You may bring the intellectual side to the table. Don't always think money has value. Intellectual capital is the most important value. People hire and pay the people that can get it done across the finish. So I would say partnership.
And my transition out, honestly, was out of necessity, almost the same as Brittany. I think our first was born. I came back to the banking industry, and they were like, "Well, we want to send you to Arizona." What? Right. You're right. I went to the bank to get in real estate finance and banking. They're like, well, you want to do that, you got to go to Arizona. I said, no, I don't. Right? Because I had a long history of dealing with public and private finance at that point. So at that point, yeah, I left. But it was kind of a necessity thing.
Piggyback on that partnership thing before you go. Me and Chris are partners. We each have a role. He handles one half of it, I handle one half of it. And, by having that partnership, we're like the perfect team. I'm not gonna say we're perfect, we butt heads all the time. But still, we know each other's roles. We're not overstepping our boundaries. Like I'm not out there, trying to tell him how to do the civil part. And he's not out there trying to tell me how to do the land development part. So if you find somebody that you can work with and a partner, it could be a spouse, it could be a friend, it could be, just somebody you meet here today. You know what I'm saying? If y'all can partner up and figure it out together. Andre always says we can do more together than we can apart.
Because you're gonna need people. You're gonna need people.
No problem. Any other questions?
He got all of it.
Yeah. Well, we've said a lot. Well, y'all have said a lot. Any other questions? Okay, so to close out, I would like for you to let the audience know or the viewers know where how you can be contacted, and then one word to the aspiring entrepreneur.
I can be contacted at C as in Chris, Ford, Ford, at E like Edward 210development.com. Again, that's C Ford at E210development.com. And one word, I would leave it as success. I mean, you got to be motivated, you got to be driven, and that's what motivates me. I grew up in a low income community. I didn't come from wealth. My parents didn't make a whole lot of money. I was motivated, and I have a desire to want to succeed. And I think that if everybody had that desire, then we build great things and we do great things in this nation.
Thank you.
Demetrius again. I can be reached at Demetrius, DEMETRICE at Winwood, WYNNWOODLAND.com. And again, that's Demetrius at winwoodland.com. I think for me is almost touching on what Chris said. You got to have a job. And we was all joking before this all started. We was messing with Andre, how he never sleeps, but then we all kind of looked at each other and said, man, none of us never sleeps.
Right.
At one point you'll say it's not healthy, but name a successful person that puts sleep over value in their business. If you want to succeed in this life, you got to put in the extra work. And the way you put in that extra work is through collaborating, is through partnerships, is through friends, is to delegating. But at the same time, you have to oversee all of it. So you have to be involved. So that's my next outlet.
Okay.
Garland Harris Jr. You can find me on Instagram, Neighborhood Developer. You can go to my website, Middle Housing Design. Excuse me.
Oh, where?
MiddleHousingDesign.com. That has all of my contact information on there. You can see some of the projects that we're designing and building or past. I think I put past projects on there. I don't think I have yet. There'll also be a coaching tab on there that'll pop up at the end of this month. So I'll start a coaching, and I also do classes. I don't really want to figure that out again, but that's kind of like a good one. I give you another one our coach used to tell us all the time. It's not the elephants that get you beat, it's the ants and the mosquitoes. So it's not the big things that get you beat, it's the little things. So the thing I found, a lot of successful people are able to do the little things right, and little things go beyond just the things for your business. Like for me, I have a routine before I go to bed. I read a book, I do a little workout, do some push-ups, some dumbbell workouts. I pray and I read my Bible. That's my routine every night. We had a graduate assistant at PV used to say, it's non-negotiable. For me, this is non-negotiable. I drove up to Dallas. I got there at 1 a.m. in the morning. I still read, I still prayed, I still did my push-ups, I still studied my Bible. So if you could do those little things right, you know what I'm saying? They translate into the big things. So the ants and the mosquitoes are what get you beat, not the elephants. That's what everybody pays attention to. The elephant. Okay, but what were the ants and the mosquitoes that led up to that?
Thank you.
My name is Andre Barad. You can reach me on AndreYesToRealEstate.com. Instagram is Andre Yes to Real Estate. Facebook, Yes to Real Estate. Before I say my one word, I want to give a big shout out to my son Chase over there. He's 4. He's a major.
Chase.
Let's give Chase a hand clap, guys. Man, for him to be here at 4 years old and to hold it down, Dad is real proud of you, man. Keep up the good work, okay? But if anyone knows me, I don't even have to say my one word. I'm gonna let everyone else say it. Let's on the count of 3.
Yes.
On the count of 3.
Yes.
On the count of 3.
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
Yes.
I'll sit me next to Andre.
Right. I'm glad I'm sit right here.
So I'm Brittany. You can reach me at Brittany, BRITTANY, at Realinc, REALINCLLC.com. You can also reach me at Comms and Community on Instagram. And I'd say my one word is purpose, just operating in your purpose, being purposeful in everything that you do. And that's it.
Thank you, Brittany.
Jason Hyman. You can find me pretty much anywhere at Jason T. Hyman, probably on any social media channel. If you can't, just Google Jason T. Hyman. This entire front page is probably us. My one word is do something. Just simply, I think we get caught up in a lot of thinking, and sometimes I think if you took anything from today, everybody started with some action. So do something.
All righty. And I am Jasmine Jones, the owner of the Business Umbrella and the host of Let's Talk Business podcast. And I can be reached at the Business Umbrella on Instagram, as well as Let's Talk Business podcast on Instagram. And I also can be reached at Jasmine J at thebusinessumbrella.com. And my one word is jump. So just get started, like you just said, whatever it is that you want to do, just write out a plan and get started. So I want to thank everyone for viewing in on season 2 finale, All Things Real Estate, and how we use real estate as a tool to build generational wealth. So thank you.